Hello, Jedi Knights and Sith Lords, and welcome to a very special show of the Star Wars Artifacts Show. Today, we are receiving a guest on our show, and let me introduce him first. Sorry, Eric, but I'm going to introduce our
It's
guest
okay.
first. We have Rocco Tartamella, a sculptor if you guys have watched some of my reviews for my Legends in Three Dimension series bust from Diamond Select slash Gentle Giant, well, some of them are from this gentleman. So, Rocco, welcome on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for getting me on the show.
All right.
Nice to see you again, Eric.
Yeah. Well, actually, so to give some context, I've kind of not been working, but I've known Rocco for I don't know how many years, ever since I started painting and doing some commissions for some 1/6 scale paint work, and Rocco has been one of the most popular in that I guess in that hobby and in that scale as well in terms of like sculpting and name the character, name the movie. He's done so many, and I've had the opportunity to paint quite a few of them. So anyway, it's the first time we actually see each other, I think, and actually talk. So it's good after all these years. So
I know it's
welcome.
everything is always communication
The
on
messenger, yeah.
Messenger or something. Yeah.
Either that, or I have someone saying, "Hey, I have something I wanna get painted." Rocco has said to contact you. I'm like, "All right, that's good. Okay, so yeah, go
All
ahead."
right. Yeah. Rocco, every time we have a guest on the show, I ask them like some sort of an icebreaker question. I want to know what is your favorite Star Wars project? You know, it could be a movie, could be a comic book, could be a novel, could be a TV series. What is your favorite Star Wars project?
Project to work on
No, that you've seen or read
that I've
or
seen.
yeah.
Oh, it's probably the first three movies. I would put them all equal. You
Okay.
know, it kick-started everything, didn't it? You
Yeah,
know.
of
Yeah,
course, yeah. So we're all from the same generation, you know, from the original trilogy, and
we just aged ourselves there. It's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I must be the youngest. I don't know. I was born between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So,
I
uh,
think we're probably around the same age, you and I.
all
Then.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good, excellent. So, how did you discover that you had a talent for sculpting?
I would say probably around 2000. I've always drawn a little bit, when I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid. I
Okay.
really liked looking at all the comic book artists, and I was into Norman Rockwell paintings, and so I was like detailed too. But around 2000, I started picking up some clay, and at a hobby store, and just from there, we just started to like, wow, this is fun. I wasn't looking at it as a career; it was more like something to do, keep my hands busy.
Okay.
You
So it
know.
began as a hobby, and then, well,
Yeah.
one thing led to another, and you realized that you had above the average level of skills, I guess. And so you never got to a special school. You're mostly self-taught, right?
Yeah, self-taught.
Wow. Okay. And you're a freelancer, or do you work for companies in particular?
I've been freelancing for, I want to say, probably 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, freelancing. I worked in house at Art Asylum. I also worked in house at McFarlane Toys.
Hmm.
McFarlane Toys, I think I was there for about a year. And then
Okay.
from there, I just started doing freelance, and it was a lot more freeing than punching a clock all the time. And then you could do competitive rates, and it wasn't just like, you go in and you clock in and you have a
Mhm.
project. Freelancing, you could pick projects that you wanted to do. There was more companies at that time too that were looking for artists, so you could just go to Toy Fair or turn in your portfolio, and you get a lot of good feedback from people. If you were weak on something, they let you know, or they're like, you know what, I want to try you out on this project or that project. And then from there, it's a rapport, and then you just start getting more and more work.
All
You
right.
find it
And
was easier to work that way, like because I mean, I don't do that much painting or as much as I used to, but I remember that, like, if someone sent me a character that I wasn't really interested in, except for like when I've done your Sopranos, and like I love the show, I'm passionate. I feel like
Hmm.
it can almost show in the work, rather than, like you said, if you punch in, they're like, I need you to sculpt this. You're just like, ah, like you don't really feel, if your heart's not into something and you're doing it
Yeah.
for something else rather than doing it for, you see something you're inspired by, like, oh, I'm gonna sculpt this, right? So
Yeah, and then also when you're working in-house, at the time everybody was working on like the same projects. Like you would start like for me, I was doing a lot of the rough outs at McFarlane, and then it would go to like a molding department, and then that soft clay I was working in, they would come back in hard wax, and then start issuing out pieces to other people in the studio to work on.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't get the piece back to finish. So no, that's not how we work here. And everyone was like sharing the same project going around. I think they were doing it to make the look cohesive because every sculptor has like their own style. But I think that's what they were doing. For me, that wasn't much fun. I'd rather take a piece from start to finish.
so
You know.
can you like say what early work, like, or what early pieces you did at McFarlane? Because I mean, they've been around for. I mean, I
Oh yeah,
remember
yeah.
collecting movie maniacs when I was younger. So
Hmm.
I think the first project I did when I walked in there was I was working on parts of the Spawn and the Throne.
oh,
Hmm.
nice.
The big garbage throne.
Yeah.
They gave me his hands to work on first, and they gave me one of the parts of the chair. I think it was the one with the skull. Then I put a piece of glass through the mouth.
Okay.
Um, and from there, they started giving me projects like Onimusha. I don't know if you know Onimusha 2, the video game.
Not really. I'm not into.
No, not really. Yeah.
Yeah, I roughed out all 6 of those figures. And then I worked on Battle Axe Spawn, the second one, the medieval line.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, with the big axe in his hand, his mouth is open, he's got the horns, one of them's cracked. I worked on the sea creature there too, and a couple of sports figures I was working on.
Okay.
Savage Dragon, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Hmm. And well, Eric mentioned knowing you for a little while. So how did you guys get in touch first?
Um,
I think I might have reached out for a sculpt that I wanted, and probably to buy for myself. And then I think after a while, I think that's when I started doing some of the paint work. But I think I might have just reached out because, I mean, again, if you go on these forums, the 1/6 scale forums and all that stuff, I mean, his work is all over the place, and people are constantly buying the sculpts because, I mean, for those that are not familiar, I mean, Hot Toys and Sideshow are like the big companies, and then you have
Hmm.
3 and all that stuff. But their licenses are limited, so if you want something that's done different, some a custom figure that none of these guys will ever either get the license or put the time in, then you have to get someone to commission the work, and that's, I probably got one of Rocco's sculpts, and that's how it started. I think probably the first time we ever spoke was probably through that. So
yeah, I think so. Because, I get a lot of private commissions for portraits. Like, people are always dropping me a message. I probably get, I don't know, 10 or 20 requests every week sometimes. Yeah.
So you mentioned working with clay, and did you transition to computers or tablets, uh, or do you still use clay as well now? Or
Uh, for personal projects, once in a while I'll pick up some clay, but most of the time it's digital now. It's the ZBrush program.
hmm.
Yeah, so it's like the industry standard, and I was self-taught on that as well. I think it was 2013. I think I started playing with the digital stuff.
it was right
I mean,
before I started doing paint work. I remember that when I started seeing your stuff, people would say, "Oh, that's when you was used to be doing clay." But I think right when I started is when you had done that. Yeah, you had started moving to.
yeah, I switched over, and it was a whole new learning curve because even with like perspective in the digital, there's like settings, and I wasn't sure when I first started what's the best, perspective number to keep something on for a portrait. because if your perspective is off on the computer, the piece either comes out with a really wide face or really narrow face.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find that sweet spot. And then when I started getting digital printers, I was able to test what's the best perspective for me to be working in, to make it accurate for when I'm printing. So it was a lot of back and forth.
So you're printing your own stuff now? Like, I mean, your prototypes or I guess your test prints, I guess?
Yeah, I do I do prototyping. And for Diamond, though, maybe half the time I do the printing on my own pieces. The other half of the time they're going with either the in-house guys at Gentle Giant, or sometimes they farm it out to other guys like Jason Wires, who does painting as well. So sometimes they'll want, especially if they're in a hurry or it's Toy Fair season, they'll have printing, molding, casting, and painting with like one team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Saves costs, I guess, in the end for them.
Yeah, and time.
Yeah. Well, I remember I had done one of the Captain America, and I think it ended up costing them an arm and a leg in the shipping afterwards, and they never called back. So like, I try not to take it too personally, but I was like, it's all right. And it was well, they needed it rush and everything like that. And from Canada, it was like, I remember going to UPS when they told me the cost. I'm like, yeesh. And yeah, so it was but it was fun. It was fun for me to get some experience in that aspect of it. So
yeah, that was good. They I know that they were like people in the States is a lot easier to work with because of that too.
The shipping
stuff.
The shipping's crazy.
If it gets caught in customs, then you could really be screwed on time.
Yeah.
And now everything is getting trapped in customs. Like whatever I ship anywhere, it's
Really?
in customs now. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So, but they were like, too bad he's not in the States. Otherwise, we would use him more.
Yeah, well, it's all right. I have one piece that's out there, and I think I done like you, and we were talking right before we went on that like I tried seeing if I can get the piece somewhere, and like and even when I saw the paint after, like the I guess the manufacturer painting, or I don't know what the terminology is for that, I was kind of disappointed. I'm just like, I don't know, that's not my paint. So it's like it was cool to see it out there. It was cool to see the pictures and the proto, like and the promotion stuff. But like, I don't know, when I saw the final paintwork, I'm like, it's not the same. And I think that's the case in a lot. To use an example, I have your the crow bust, right? That came back. Like I couldn't resist because it's a bust. It was something a little different. I don't know how many figurines from the crow, but that one I had to get, and I still intend on trying to repaint it one day because the paint is just so bland. It's really just like, here, the face is white, the eyes are brown, and the hair is black. And I'm like, geez. I'm like, that's it? Like, that's like, for me, like, with what I've done, and I just feel like I need to give it a lot more love than that. But yeah, so I'll eventually try to get to it, but the eyes are like kind of like crooked too. The way that they paint them on is just, it's unfortunate because a lot of the times, and maybe you can add on to this, but I find that a lot of the times someone, if they paint the work, I guess if they don't paint it well, it reflects bad on you as well. Like they think, oh, the sculpt is bad. No, the sculpt is good. The paint is bad, right? And
yeah,
and
I get that a lot. Yeah, I get a lot of fans telling me your sculpt looks better on production or prototype.
Yeah.
Or if they see my portfolio, like, oh, the portrait was so spot on, and then production, it doesn't look the same. But I have to say, I don't know any company out there that their final product looks just like the paint masters that are at the trade shows.
Yeah.
It's not, because the person painting these pieces, they're professional painters that paint 2 or 3 paint masters, usually two for production for them to look at to try to mimic, and the other one usually goes for trade shows or production photos. So when they go out for the pre-orders. And then when it goes to mass production, there's a whole team of people that come in and they have paint shields, and it's like it becomes an assembly line. That's why a lot of what I suggest people do, like, you like the sculpt, get the sculpt, and and then get a good painter like Eric to go in there and retouch stuff if you want that. You know, a lot of the times the guys they're happy with the product, but other guys that are like, you know, they want to see more of the depth or a shine in the eyes or all these extra little things that, you know, a a customized painter would do. You know, go ahead and, you know, do that then. Sometimes I send my pieces out, whatever companies I'm working for, they give me a sample, and I really like this piece. I want it to be, I want to look better on my shelf. I'll send it to a friend like you, or also, other painters that, are in the States.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and
Cheaper
Mhm.
shipping. So,
Yeah.
well, here I'm gonna
and the
shamelessly put some of
lovely
my
paint.
stuff here that I've done, and this is Rocco's 1/6 scale sculpts for so anyone who watches The Sopranos. Um, this he had done all four of the main characters. Can't remember their real names, but like Silvio and here you go,
Yeah,
Polly,
Polly Walnuts. It was Tony
Tony.
Sirico. Yeah, James
That
Gandolfini.
that chest hair, man, is always a challenge for me
Yeah.
to do. Those little like it's just kind of like some brushing on to try to capture the little, and that's what's easiest. I mean, I know it's kind of weird, but like if when there's details like Rocco puts like on the chest hair there, all you need to do is kind of brush it a little bit and it'll get caught on there, and it's makes it a lot easier. And even the texture of the face and the skin, as much depth as I try to add, and this one I added there for
Okay.
Dom to see. So, but yeah,
Yeah, the
so
Tarkin.
super hard. I tried to like get some freckling, I guess, on his forehead. The
The
eyes.
little liver spots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing on any sculpt is just getting the eyes to be straight. Like Silvio here, the look, he's looking right through you, kind of thing. Is That's always the hardest thing to get that and like the shine. And then after that, it's taking the picture. For me, I'm just so bad at it. I'm really not good at taking pictures. I mean, like someone like Jacob always seems to nail Jacob Raymeyer. Like he's, in my opinion, like probably one of the best painters out there, if not the best, when it comes to these.
Yeah,
Um,
he's high on the list of
yeah,
the
he's definitely like
painters.
sought after. Like it's really hard to get any kind of work from him because he's just so busy. But his pictures, I think that we actually saw in one of your in your slideshow before. I think it was a Sean Connery that he did.
Yeah, the Sean Connery, he painted that one.
Yeah, it looks incredible. So, but yeah, he taught me. There it is, right there. He taught
Oh,
me
wow.
like I think Jacob showed me everything that I know, and even then, I can't even get to his level of paint work. Like his eyes, look at that. Like it's incredible. And also, when you take a picture with the perfect lighting, and you get that glow there, it's But he's next level. Look at the freckling,
Yeah,
the
well,
this.
let's get some credit to Rocco as well. I mean, it starts with the quality of the
Yeah,
sculpt. I
well,
mean,
of course, but
if
like
the sculpt is crap, you can do a masterpiece. But
yeah, but
the sculpt
I've
right
seen
there
some of
is
these,
obviously
and
amazing.
I've seen some of his
Appreciate it.
work sometimes. Like, and I'm not to blow my like I've seen a couple Tarkins come out, and I'm just like, man, like. But some people just don't have maybe a natural eye for it. They think, well, skin is beige or whatever, and eyes are brown, and done. Here you go. But like, there's so many layers that go above it to add even more depth. And like I said, to pop out those features that Rocco puts in, whether it be the wrinkles and the dimples, the freckles, like the hairs, and like if you don't paint it properly, you're not going to see them. And that's to go back to what I said before. Like it reflects bad, I think, on his work, right? So, and then there's other sculptors. I think it was the opposite. You can, what's that expression? You can't put lipstick on a pig, and you got some people that
Yeah.
they'll be like, man, that paintwork sucks. I'm like, well, you should have seen the sculpt, right? Like it's not a Rocco, it's not a I'm not gonna name any other, but there's a few good decent sculptors out there, but like some of them are just getting started, or something just the sculpt could look good, but the likeness is not there, right? But I mean, everything I've done for Rocco so far has just been always spot on.
And
So
stay on that picture because
Appreciate
a question just popped up in my mind. So to reproduce Sir Sean Connery's face, does the company need to get the proper authorization from the actor, or is it a Lucasfilm license and they own the property of Henry Jones' face, for example?
I think with George Lucas, I'm not 100% sure, but what I've heard in the past too is that when they did Star Wars, the actors signed their likeness rights to George Lucas. That's what I think. I'm not 100% on that, but so I don't think they need approvals from the actors on that. Some companies I worked for, or later on, actors started to do their own licensing deals too. But I know a lot of the Marvel stuff that I do, the actors also approve the portraits, and also the directors sometimes get in on it too on the approval
Hmm.
process.
Like, oh, my
So that
muscles
goes
are
to a
way
lot.
bigger than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know for the Logan sculpt I did, oh, I'm blanking out now on his real name. Who's the actor who played the
Hugh
Logan?
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was blanking out. Yeah, Hugh Jackman. He had to approve the likeness, but he was promoting another movie at the time, so it took like a long time to get approval on him, just because he was traveling so much. And another license that was hard to get approval on was Johnny Depp for Jack Sparrow.
Oh, really?
His,
Okay.
yeah, his
It's one of the
sister
first
was
ones
in
in there,
charge.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I have it in there. Yeah, his sister approves his likeness, so you
Hmm.
have to. And you know, some of these actors too, they want to be more idealized too. So
Yeah. They want to look like the way they wish they looked, right?
yeah, or how they looked 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, like, when you go to Comic Con, they're like, "Oh, these guests will be here," and you look at the posters, it's like always from the '80s and in their prime. Then you show up, they're like old men and women and run down and all that stuff. But I mean,
It
this
happens
this
to
one
all
looks,
of us.
yeah, exactly. But it's okay. I don't have any older posters of me.
So you kind of answered one of my questions, but from the moment the process starts, the moment you receive the contract to do a bust, to the moment it is released on the shelves, or to the moment I get it in my hands as a customer, how long does the whole process take? A year?
Oh wow!
More than that?
Sometimes it can take a year. It all depends on production and approval times too. If you get everything that's going smoothly, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you can have I think a product out in 3 to 5 months. But a lot of the time they save it up for getting the pre-orders all taken care of as well. So they'll have pieces done and
Mm-hmm.
at the showcases, and then they're taking pre-orders. A lot of the companies, and once those are fulfilled, then they hit the button for production, and then however long that takes, and then you've got shipping overseas too, because you've got these giant cargo ships that come in, and
Yeah, it's a
sometimes it
couple
could take
months. Yeah.
3 months just on the
Yeah.
water, you know,
Then
for
the
the
Yeah.
ships to
distribution and in store, and then yeah,
it's a big operation, and my hat goes off to all these companies that you know they work hard to get the licenses, they put
Yeah.
all the money up front, they hire all of the artists, they coordinate all that, they deal with licensing agreements, approval processes for every phase of it. Sometimes it's the directors, the actors, the producers, you know, goes through everything. And if you got big companies too, like Disney involved, and you know,
Yeah.
this, I don't know, there could be over 30 people involved just to get the approval process going all the way
With the
through.
lawyers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
was John Wick pretty quick? Because I mean, I've seen you done more than a few of those, right? So
John Wick, I think for approvals, there's another thing too, because Keanu does so much work and he's always promoting too. So
yeah.
for him, I think on the first piece we went through, I think it was 3 months to get approvals on that.
I would almost think, because he's like a comic book
Hmm.
nut and all this kind of stuff too, right? He's even written his own or created his own comics. I would almost have a feeling that he's even more nitpicky than others, but I mean, I wouldn't know.
I didn't get any notes from him personally. It
Oh,
was like his team of people were critiquing the portrait,
okay.
and there was a lot of nuances, because it's like I noticed a lot with people who've got either Asian features or because Keanu's got he's got a lot of different races in him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I noticed that there's a lot more attention to detail goes into critiquing the faces, because I think a lot of American sculptors tend to sculpt more American faces or European faces,
Okay.
and vice versa too with Asian sculptors. If they're sculpting American faces, they almost put an Asian feel to
I've
the
noticed
face.
that. I've noticed
Yeah.
that many
So
times. Well, you know what? Hot Toys is a perfect example.
yeah,
I find that a lot of the times they take out the sculpt and you're just like, huh. Like I've seen a couple of Daisy Ridleys that came out and I'm just like, there's just something off. And I can't tell what it is, but I think it's like you said, right? Like I mean, it's just, I guess you have you're influenced by your culture or something like that maybe
yeah.
that falls within that in your own work, right? So I guess maybe I don't know if you're trying to find some resemblance of yourself in it, but like it's I've noticed it before, and mostly again in the Hot Toy stuff, where I think they
Yeah.
tend to have more Asian sculptors, but yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed that. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially if you got people who are really good at critiquing too, they'll catch all that. I had such good notes too on the John Wick property too, because I'll give them full turns of the head too. So I'll have the whole pose. I'll give they call them front, back, left, and right. So some guy call
Okay.
it flubbers for the initials.
okay,
So you do that, and then I'll do also turns of the face, like every angle of the face,
okay,
and then they'll take those, and if you got a really good licensor, they'll take that and they'll go over it too sometimes with actual photos, or they'll draw a line and they'll say move the nostril this way, or can you bring the eye out a little bit more, or tweak an ear. They'll do stuff like that.
yeah.
So, like for the John Wick property, they were very detail oriented with that, which made getting his likeness that much easier, because it's like, okay, they're doing a lot. They're taking all the guesswork out of it too, and then they'll provide more photos. So sometimes I'll get a portrait, I'll think it's great, and then I'll send it in, and sometimes the licensor will go, oh, on this angle, here's another photo that I didn't have previously, and now I can line it up and make sure that it like a 3/4 shot that's just right, the same expression, and then it'll be like, all right, now I got it.
Have you ever had anyone? So this is just for my own entertainment, I guess. You don't need to name the company or the name. Have you ever had someone send you back something and you're just like, this guy's crazy? Doesn't look anything like that. But hey, they're asking for it, so I'll do it. But I think that this guy's way off. Like,
I had a project I did. It was a DC project. Someone was
Mm-hmm.
approving it. It was a movie character, and I even did photo overlays in Photoshop to show that the portrait was spot on. But whoever was critiquing it, it was one person out of like a team of 15 people that going through
Wow.
approval, and he just was hell bent on not approving this likeness. It
wow.
was just like one time I ever had that, and
It
everyone
was
else.
on a mission. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like on a mission just to block the piece, and I can't say what piece it was, but other people in the company said, it looks perfect. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So it was like that was a head scratcher for me, but it eventually got approved and went out the door.
But what's the quote art is it's like everyone has an opinion, right? Like it's like I've seen stuff, like I've definitely seen in whether it be any sculptures or paintings and stuff like that, and you see the word, like, oh, this thing is spot on. I'm like, whoa, this is like so off, right? And vice versa, right? Like where I think
Yeah.
this is amazing, some guy goes, that looks nothing like him, and I'm like, this guy's just trolling, right? Like like you see a
Yeah.
piece come out that, like, I'm sure you've seen it, right? Like in your comments or and some of your work, some people just say like that looks nothing like him. I'm like, what are you, crazy? Like, what are you talking?
Yeah, you
But
can't keep everybody happy.
yeah,
You really
exactly.
can't.
Well, it's not
And
the
then
pose, it's not the face that they were hoping for, or like I don't know the look, or but yeah, I've seen that so many times. So, and I've had my conversation, and even when talking with other painters, when I see a piece, I'm like, I'm not sure about that, and the other painter goes, no, this is spot on. I'm like, all right, well, what's important is if you're happy with it, right? Especially if you're getting commission work done, the
yeah,
customer's happy, then that's all you need, right? So
my goal is just to make the client happy. Whoever's commissioning me for the project. If it's a company, if it's a private commission, you know, that's who I want to make happy, not everybody else, because
Yeah.
everyone also has a vision of a certain actor in their
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
and you know they can't remove the character he's playing from his, you know, so they want like his persona, not really the accuracy of the face either.
Yeah.
So, and everyone sees people differently,
Yeah.
you know, and then you have to try to get the essence of the characters too, which, you know, even if you look at Harrison Ford, he's probably the most critiqued portrait for any sculptor on the market. If somebody sculpts a Harrison Ford head, you know there's going to be, you know, a ton of people commenting on what they think they, you know, is off or what is on.
He's got two
on
different
him.
faces though, right? Like half his face looks like someone and half his face, like, did you ever see those famous things where they kind of cut it in half, like they split it, and if you look at the right side and the left side, he looks grumpy on one side and he looks all right, like, you know, fine on the other. So I mean, that's got to be difficult for you to capture someone whose face is not necessarily symmetrical, I guess, right?
Yeah, nobody has a symmetrical face. I don't
Yeah.
care who you are, you know. Nobody
Great.
has a symmetrical face.
Now me and Dom are gonna
Guys
go look in the
do.
mirror right after this.
Most
Yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah. I'm already looking at my face in the camera right now, and I was trying to mimic one of Harrison Ford's smiles, because
Yeah.
he smiles on one side, and
Yeah.
his eyebrows goes on the other side,
Yeah.
and there's a way he tweaks his face. You know, for example, when he looks at Luke and Leia on Endor, and he says, "Hey, it's me." You know that famous line. I mean, there's something in his face that's like only Harrison Ford can pull the face like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, because he puts an attitude into his face when he smiles or when he's giving a line. Like he's so sarcastic as Han Solo.
oh yeah,
You know, he's so like rough as Indiana Jones. Like he's seen it all already. You know, and he
Yeah.
wears. So the expression, you know, character to character changes. Even if you see him in Blade Runner, he's got a different demeanor, and his
Yeah.
face looks different. So these actors, they embody the character that they're playing, and there's nuances that change. So if you're sculpting a Han Solo, he can't look exactly like an Indiana Jones. You know,
For
even though
sure.
it's the same actor, you have to get the persona in there as well.
Yeah, because Solo has that little cockiness, you know, inside him, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, is getting the facial accuracy the toughest part of your job? I guess it is, right?
Yeah, because so many people will critique a portrait, and I'm one of the guys in the industry that's very well known for his portraits. So it you know, I got a lot of pressure to make sure that those portraits are spot on. And then knowing, you know, when things go to production, things could change just because the nature of the beast. You're working with, you know, hot materials in rubber or in steel molds, and sometimes things distort, you know. You can't avoid certain things. You know, so
Yeah.
whatever company it is, you know.
I don't know if Eric, if you can pull out the picture I sent you of the bus I already own. So those are the pictures I use in my reviews, and I don't know. Maybe you'll tell me that that's one of the easiest part of your job. I don't know, but getting the right texture for the fabrics, that is something that always impressed me. When I see some stitching marks and like the sewing machine, everything, you know, of the fabric. How did you do that? What kind of tools? Well, now I know that you're using your computer. So, when you're sculpting on clay, what specific tool do you have to use to get that level of accuracy?
Well, for working in clay, then I have to roll out the like little thin beads of clay, put it
Okay.
on there, and then they have to measure them out stitch by
Wow.
stitch to make sure that all of them are accurate. But if I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it with the computer, you know, I have a tool in there that I could just almost draw it in, and it will give me accurate spacing.
Okay.
So I've done a sculpting video actually on Darth Maul. That's on my YouTube page,
Okay.
which you can find at, you know, roccothesculptor.com, and you go to the media section, and I've got videos there. But like the Star Wars stuff, George Lucas, they provide Lucasfilms. They provide really high res images, so I could bring up super close the fabrics on my
Okay.
screen, and I could this is the kind of detail texture that's on this part of the outfit versus the pants, the shirt, whatever. So I can go in there and mimic, you know, go back and forth and make sure that everything is accurate. Like the Kylo Ren there that you're showing off,
Mm-hmm.
got several different textures on him. His helmet's got a texture on it. The hood's got a texture. The inside of the hood, it's
The
got
tunic, yeah, the tunic also
the
in the front.
tunic. Yeah, all of the little like the pulling on the shirt, where the stitches, like everything. I try to make as accurate as humanly possible to the actual
Yeah,
photo.
well, to be honest, that was one of the statues I told you it was my I think it was my third one. So it was kind of the one that made me fall in love with that series because seeing the stitching points and I I even took a picture of Kylo's helmet from the Rise of Skywalker and the crack. They almost seemed to be at the right. They were spot on. I mean, I was like, how can somebody reproduce something like that? I was so impressed by that. Those little details that crazy fanboys like me, we notice. But it's
Well,
pretty insane.
there's also the fact that I mean Rocco. I mean what you see behind me are costumes. I'm in the 501st Legion, the charity group, and Dom's seen more of his share. We have a friend in common that's many friends in common that are also part of the group.
Hmm.
So our costumes themselves need to be extremely screen accurate in order to be part of the
Hmm.
group.
Yeah.
Reason being is that when you go see a child in the hospital for a visit, you don't want to show up in a Walmart stormtrooper costume, right? Then they'll be
No.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be like, okay, well, who's this, right? So when you show up, they have no doubt, or they think they have no doubt that that's the real Darth Vader, and so accuracy is definitely key when it comes to building these costumes. And our friend has a Kylo Ren. So when you're talking about all that different material and textures and everything like that, it's so important to kind of like replicate what they see on the screen and just the helmet there. I'm looking at the texture and some of the other stuff that like from the other photos. Just crazy to see it there. It looks like one of the guys in our groups when you think about it. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
Well,
because
see.
thanks so much, guys. Yeah, thank you, Dom, too, for catching all that too. Because what you do is what I do. Like, if you look at the piece and you're comparing it picture to picture, that's how I get in there and I make sure that everything is accurate. Because
yeah.
they'll send me reference too of Kylo Ren, the actor, all in the outfit, and then they'll send me separate pictures too of like just the helmet on like a spin table, and they'll have like I don't know, close to 20 to 30 pictures of the head just turning around if I go
Hmm.
through it fast. So I get every angle. So if I'm sculpting that helmet, it's going to be 100% accurate to the reference that they sent me.
And
So,
seeing your Darth Maul head sculpt made me realize for the first time that he had a piercing on his left ear.
that's right.
I had never noticed that he had a piercing, and I was like, does he have one in the movie? So I immediately opened some pictures on the web. I was like, okay, he really does have a piercing on his ear, and
Do
I
you know
had
what happened
never
there?
noticed it. Yeah.
You know the story with the earring?
No, I don't.
Ray Park, he forgot to take the earring out when they were putting the makeup on him.
No.
So he went out there, he filmed his scene, and he went, oh
Uh
no, I
oh.
got the earring. And George Lucas says, you know what? It fits the character. We're gonna leave it in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's how the earring got. That's the story I heard anyway.
Wow.
That's how
That's
the
insane.
got left in.
And one of the things I like a lot about the Legends and 3D series is the base of the busts because
Yeah,
they always link to the character, which obviously makes sense. But some series have like that generic, base, but every single one of the Legends in 3D series is different, and that kind of details. I mean, it makes my interest for that series grow even more because we saw Darth Maul earlier, with the base was And I even put like his lightsaber, his biggest lightsaber next to it, just to show the viewers that, it's pretty accurate. Same thing for Dark Kylo Ren, same thing, and for the Luke Skywalker. I mean, the the base is pretty insane with the cockpit of an X-wing, and there's even you even made that little R2, on the top of it. So it's like, wow,
So
that's awesome.
how does the
Yeah,
direction
so
come for that? Like, is it all like your idea, or do you get, like
no, I
some?
get control art for these, especially for the L3D bus from Diamond. They sent it to me, and Joe Allard does most of the L3D control art for them. So Joe Allard's been illustrating it for toy companies, I think, for over 20 years as well. So every time I get, one of these L3D sketches to work off of, I'm just as surprised as a lot of you guys. I'm like, okay, now how am I going to make that?
Yeah,
So then I have to sit there and figure out all the parts and, I have to bring in cylinders on there and, squares, circles, go in there, make sure that the right sizes, match everything up again, with the reference material. Because if something's off, I know I'm going to hear about it.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because that base for Luke, I mean, I was like, wow, where does that come from? I mean, and it's so original, for that specific series, and the fact that the size is half scale, it's bigger than the typical 1/6 scale. I mean, so you have more maneuver, I guess, to be more creative for those bases. So
Yeah,
now,
the base too for that Tuscan Raider. Oh my goodness, it was giving me a headache trying to figure
yeah,
out
the Gyderfi stick,
how
yeah,
how to
that's
sculpt
insane.
all that. And
And
originally too, that gun on his back was longer. It touched the table,
okay,
but I don't think visually it worked. It was working right, so they had me cut it. So and then I guess the weight of it too was more balanced when I took portion of that gun off.
yeah,
So
I can understand why. There it is.
It's
So
funny. I
yeah,
remember
that's
talking about the crow one, and when I got it, we had kind of spoken about it. I think when I first saw the picture, and you're the one that pointed out. You said there's a crow behind it, and I'm
yeah,
like really? Because like the bottom is like the window, like where of his apartment, and
mm-hmm.
then he said there's a crow, and I'm like where? He goes in the back, and I'm like, what the hell is that there for? I'm like, what's the point? Like, who's gonna display their crow with the back of it? But like, it just
it was
goes to
like a
the
bonus.
yeah. So you get all these things like no matter which way you turn it, like there's just something to look at, which is kind of weird. You almost need these to be on those spinning stands or something, right? To really
Some
showcase it.
people do that. Some
Yeah.
people put it on, or they've got cases and there's a mirror on the back of them, so
Oh yeah.
you'll see all angles of it anyway.
The texture on this
But
one, the Tuscan Raider, is
That
like
texture, yeah,
crazy.
that's
yeah,
insane.
that
So,
that character was so much fun to sculpt because of all the textures and
hmm
all the stuff he had on him. And they sent me all the original images from the outfit from the late '70s. And you can see what all the parts were made out of too. So, like the piece that's in front of them, I think there were hairspray nozzles on it and stuff.
yeah,
So I was imitating, all those little pieces. You should have seen my window because I have to break it all out in parts as I'm making it. So all those items are done. Like even that piece just on his neck, just on his collar, is probably in 10 to 15 different parts. And
wow.
then same with the base, same with the gun. The gun was like, oh my god.
I remember when I got the piece, my dad, he pointed at the leather strap and the pouches on his chest, and he genuinely asked me, "Is that real leather?" And I was like, "Nope,
It's like a good
that's
I hear
all.
compliment,
that a
eh?
lot.
That's
Yeah.
all written." So I guess that's the ultimate compliment you can get, when someone confuses the resin for the real deal, the real material. So
Yeah. I appreciate that. You know, I did. I put a lot of work in there, and I want these pieces to look real. You know, I don't want them to look like they're just a statue or just a toy. I want them to look like they could start moving.
Especially the Star Wars fans, eh? You know how they are,
Yeah.
so you gotta.
Yeah, yeah.
They won't be
Some can get a
shy.
little nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that Bo-Katan bus is your or one of your latest Star Wars products you've worked on, right?
Yeah.
So it is. I saw on the Gentle Giant website it's scheduled to come out. I think I saw Q2. So somewhere between now and the end of June, I would assume. So, what was the toughest part of that sculpt in particular? The biggest challenge? Is it the jetpack?
Um.
See the
Yeah,
texture
probably the
again.
jetpack because of all the different parts on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It'd be a toss up between the base and the jetpack because there were a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts on that.
Yeah.
With
So
the
the base,
outfit,
if I'm right, it's the gauntlet, right?
yeah, it's one of her gauntlets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because actually I sculpted that full gauntlet all the way up because I didn't know how much of it were gonna show on the bus and
Okay.
then
Wow.
All
the
that
height.
work.
You know, yeah. That
Is
happens
it
with a
the,
lot of pieces actually. I'll sculpt like that jetpack too. I sculpted almost the full jetpack on her, and then trimmed it later to fit the cut of the bust and try to match the control art.
is it disappointing when you do some work and it ends up being cutted, or is it just something that you've learned to live with? That's that's part
Yeah,
of
I
your
try not
job.
to get. Yeah, I don't usually get upset with too many things that happen because I know production is, with any even my own private pieces that I make. Like if I'm working on something, I'll go, the extra, yard to get the thing,
Mm-hmm.
accurate. Because when you're cutting it or when you're making a base or whatever, you'll as the design process goes, you're gonna you're playing around what works, what doesn't work. So if you don't have enough of a base or you don't have enough of a detail, you have to go back in there later and make it anyway. So I just go ahead and do it right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
This base is
And
pretty
that's another
sick,
one
man.
of your latest projects,
Yeah.
the Indiana Jones that is still available as a pre-order on the Gentle Giant website. That base, once again, I don't know what the thing I have for the bases, but I mean, when I saw the back and then there's like the head of the snake, I was like, I immediately said snakes. What if it had to be snakes?
Yeah, that's what I said
I
too.
had to put in the yeah.
It's good though. I guess for Rocco that like someone appreciates the base because I mean according to them the Bo-Katan base was a lot of work. So like if someone's just looking at the
Yeah.
face saying great, but at least someone that's noticing all these little details. I mean it's definitely got to be good.
Well, I
Like
think
the
it's my
leather is
part
just
of the job just to show everyone, that every little bits of the statue because if they are going to purchase it at some point, I mean, you got to know what you're getting into when you purchase such a product. Because let's be honest, they're not cheap. 200 bucks is big money
yeah.
for
Well, us
people
Canadians
like me
too,
and
it
you.
costs a
So
lot
yeah,
with our conversion rate. Is just crazy and like you wish you lived in the US at times just to take advantage of there's so many free shipping promotions on through these companies, but the minute you say you live in Canada, like, oh, Canada, hold on, that's $40 to ship. You're just like, wow, that's like almost,
I
I mean,
know.
it's not unheard of to pay almost a third of your item is shipping, and then you get
And
hit with
shipping.
customs and all that custom fees, and the government wants their part and all that. So what comes out, for something in the U.S. for $99, we end up paying like close to $200 Canadian. So it's unfortunate, and then some companies don't even ship to us. So,
and
but
there's the fact that the Canadian dollar is very weak right now. We only get 74 U.S. cents uh, for 1 Canadian dollar. So it's crazy. You need to pay. You know, you lose the 1/4 of your dollar just for the exchange rate. That's insane. So
it's an
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
expensive
you,
seeing this
hobby.
in other countries too. Like, I have no idea what's going on with everybody's currency and what that means for the future of like the whole world. I don't know what these
Yeah.
governments are doing.
Well, I got completely turned off the whole 1/6 scene because, I mean, I used to collect some hot toys and build my own customs and stuff, but and it was cheaper for me, like being able to paint my own and stuff, because when I wanted to create something, you go to the typical, there's some go-to guys where you can get the clothes set and, some bodies, and then put on, Rocco's head sculpt on there. So the figure ends up a lot cheaper. But when you go with hot toys, the conversion, the shipping, and all that stuff, in the end, you're paying $400 or $500 Canadian for a figurine, which is like crazy. Because before, when I started collecting, it was even. The dollar was even. So if it was $200, and that's what they were about in the day, like probably like 199, it was about $200, and that's it. But like now at
Hmm.
$500, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, I see people buying so many, and I see their detops full of figurines. I'm like, man, that's like
What did you do
thousands
for a
and thousands.
living?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't
Because
know.
I'm running the channel for like it's gonna be 3 years in June,
Oh, congrats!
and I don't have any sponsors at all. I mean, everything you see behind me, I paid for everything. So, I really like that line of statues, and I'm like, well, maybe one day Gentle Giant will see one of my videos, and they'll decide to send me some statues to review
They do.
because
Then they get the
they
shipping quote. They're
do.
like, no, forget it. It's too much. I'm not
No,
giving
well,
it. Not paying
I
$50 to ship
see
them a free statue.
I see other people, on YouTube that they get the free stuff, and I'm like, what do I have to do to get those things? So yeah, maybe one day, maybe it's a number of subscribers and something like that. Once you reach a certain amount of subscribers, things must get a little easier for us YouTubers. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
wouldn't know
it's
because I don't have the numbers either on my YouTube channel.
But you have fun, Dom, doing it, right? So I mean, that's how I got
yeah.
to learn about Dom. Was I had known about his channel for a bit, in his videos and his reviews and stuff like that. I had seen them, like, obviously being in the Star Wars community, and then he was looking to do a live show and a podcast, and he needed someone who was anglophone, and I'm like, oh well, if no one reaches out, then let me know, and here I am today. So, but having
You guys
fun.
are
Well,
doing great though.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad nobody else reached out.
Thanks. But it's fun. I'm learning. It's like before I would watch it, Star Wars. I mean, I'm a fan, watch it more casually, but now it's like I feel like I have homework to do sometimes, and I need to try to match some of Dom's knowledge in this. Like Dom can go on for about like 10 minutes about a scene in episode X whatever of this, kind of like TV show, and I'm like, man, I'm lost. And like that's when I realize it's very humbling, the knowledge that he has, because I'm so far away from it. So
Hey, he's a good fan, huh?
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
yeah. I've been a fan for a long time. Since I was like 5 or 6, and now I get to do that. Well, I cannot live for my passion as of now, but uh, I have a feeling that I'm slowly but surely getting there. So uh, yeah, it's pretty cool. I need a few more viewing watch time hours before I can begin monetizing my videos. But I expect that maybe like in August or September, I will have reached that number of hours, and
That's
I'll be able
great.
to make it a living. And of course, you don't make the same amount of money if you have 300 views, or I don't know, 300,000 views. So then the rest will come. But yeah, it's a good step forward, and the live show and the streams are really helping out getting those hours of view time. So that's
Yeah, it's like anything, you put the work in, you put the time in, and it will pay off.
yeah, and sometimes I watch reviews and they just show the product, and they say, well, there's a button there, and it lights up, and I'm adding some lore to my reviews as well for those who are passionate about that kind of stuff. So if I'm reviewing Mace Windu's lightsaber, well, I'll say, well, those gold buttons, they come from a planet near the Enowat system, and I will add a map of the galaxy and I'll show where it is. And so that's what sets me out of of the group. You know, that's the color I put to my reviews. So
Dom
Yeah, you
sees Star
go
Wars like the
in depth.
Matrix. He sees it like all codes and all this stuff that no one else sees, right? He's like all these. He's got a different perspective when he looks at stuff, and sometimes he's like, "Oh, did you notice this?" I'm like, "I would have never even looked at that," but like he's spotting all these Easter eggs and all this stuff. So it's always interesting, and for me, again, I keep learning with it. So always
You got
fun.
that
yeah,
artistic eye where you catch it all.
Yeah.
yeah, true.
So what do you
That's
have
great.
coming up, Rocco? Any big projects you can kind of, I guess,
If you're allowed to speak
without,
of,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
that you're allowed to speak of? Because I mean, anything Star Wars related, obviously for us, or
With the Star Wars stuff, I think the last things that I was able to talk about were the Han Solo bust.
okay, nice.
Okay.
Um,
Harrison
which
Ford, okay.
did you guys see? Yeah, with Harrison Ford. Did you see the interview I did with Zach Oates?
I
Is
saw
that the
two of
one we
them
watched
come out.
together? Yeah.
Yeah, there was two of them that came out that I saw recently.
Yeah,
Uh,
Zach Oates from Diamond interviewed me, and I did
yeah,
a quick little like how I did the hair and stuff on the
yeah,
Han Solo.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that's the newest one I could talk about. I
okay,
can't talk about anything else. But what came out recently though was Jackson, the premier statue,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Trapper Wolf, and Briggs with the interchangeable heads and helmet.
Okay. Yeah.
That the bust. I think those were the most recent ones that came out, and Weequay, the one with the staff.
Yeah. Yeah. On Jabba's sail barge.
Yeah. So those
Okay.
were the newest ones that came out, and
And
then
at Celebration, they showed the four L3D busts. There was a Gamorrean guard, a Palpatine bust, a Shadow Trooper, and a Jango Fett bust. Did you work on any of those
mm-mm,
ones? No.
I
Okay.
didn't. I wish I did though, because I have a Palpatine sculpted already. That would have been a nice piece to add
Yeah.
in. I think I sent the photos of it to Eric for the slideshow.
oh, let
I
me
don't
just
know
check, yeah.
if you have it in there. I did but that's not the one that Diamond used. Um,
That's the one you were talking about earlier, I think.
That's a
yeah,
replay.
Yeah,
yeah.
threw it there. Is that like a prototype of the paint that they sent, or
It
this
was.
one here?
Oh, that one. That looks like the production piece.
Oh,
That one came out pretty good production. It was pretty accurate to the prototype.
well, I find when it's if it's a helmet and there's you don't have to worry about texture of skin or anything like that, they tend to come out pretty good.
That's the Jackson you were talking about, right?
Yeah, that's the Trapper Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. Trapper with his gun.
Which
I
that
assume that they'll end up coming out with a Carson Teva, his companion, a Ranger companion at some point. But
I can't say.
What's
um,
can you explain this expression?
that was a private commission. The guy
Okay.
wanted him with an evil smile and
Okay.
doing the Sith eyes painted in there.
mm-hmm.
That you'd have to, I mean, in my opinion, you'd have to have the eyes looking up, like, to kind of like give that kind of mean.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he ended up doing that. I saw photos somewhere, but I didn't have it saved. It came out really good.
Bruce Lee. What's your favorite non Star Wars piece that you've worked on?
Oof, that's a good question. I sculpted so many things. I don't know.
But it's not like, I
know
mean,
Yeah.
Bruce Lee must be cool to have worked on something like any kind of legend like that, right? So something that
Yeah,
may be
yeah.
close.
The Lee family approves those, so I think Shannon Lee approves all of her father's sculpts.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was I sculpted, I think 6 Bruce Lee pieces.
So is that the Harrison Ford you were talking about?
Yes, that's the Harrison
Oh,
Ford. Yeah,
okay.
that's gonna be coming out. And that I get approval from George Lucas on all the Star Wars stuff too.
Wow.
And yeah, like the Trapper Wolf as well. I think that was a surprise. I don't think Dave Filoni knew he was going to be
Oh, really? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of back and forth with Lucasfilms there to make sure that it looked very heroic, and he wanted it to be a nice surprise for Dave.
That's sweet. So those are the shots from all the angles you were mentioning earlier. The front view,
Yeah,
the diagonal
front,
view. Yeah.
back, left. Yeah, and then I add in quarter shots too.
Was this a private commission or was it?
Yeah, that was a private commission there. The Lando.
And Luke, this is not a private commission, right?
Luke.
Yeah.
No, that one's coming out. That's the Bespin one.
Man, the hair on this one must have been a little. Can't see it, but you could just see in the back and the hair, like just scruffy looking. Also, like, does that make it more difficult, I guess, than just like someone with a nice, perfect coif and?
Yeah, the very 70s hair is always fun to sculpt. Wavy.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else, Dom, that you wanted to add, but I mean, this has been like.
No, I'm all good, and I want to hold the Rocco for too long as well. So it was.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, it was. I had a good time. I don't know about you, Eric, but yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to talk to
was
Rocco
fun.
finally
I
face
learned a
to
lot.
face. So.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I just come up with one last question about artist-proof pieces.
Yeah.
For example, in the Legends in 3D, I've seen some are numbered and some are not numbered. How does that whole process go? Are you aware of that, or?
I'm not aware of how they do the artist proofs. I think in the past, I think there was like 10 artist proofs, but
Okay.
I don't know what kind of numbers they do on the artist proofs these days. I have no idea, and I don't always get the artist proofs either. I think I have only 3 artist proofs out of all the pieces I've sculpted.
Okay, because I have two for my part in my L3D series.
That's
I
great.
don't think I have any of them from your work, but my first order Stormtrooper is one, and my Book of Boba Fett bus is also one of them. So I was always wondering, because they say it's a 1,000 limited series, and and I always say with a few artist-proof pieces as well in my reviews, because obviously there's at least, as you said, 10 of them extra, and I guess that some of them are kept. For example, with Gentle Giant, they're kept at the company, and in case one copy or one statue is broken upon delivery, they can replace it.
Yeah, it's
maybe stuff
possible.
like that.
I don't know how they do the production.
Okay.
It runs like that. I wish I knew, but I have no idea. I would like all artist proofs. That would be fun.
Hmm. Yeah, at least one of them for you. I mean, you worked on a project, right?
Yeah, I think I have the Trapper Wolf, and I think I have the Luke L3D bus there with the helmet.
Okay.
I think those are the only 2 I have that are AP. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So wait, listen. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and well, hopefully we'll get to chat even more one day, and maybe we can set a rendezvous for a year from now to see where your work has taken you and which
Sure.
project you've been able to work on. So
Find out what you couldn't talk to us about. So.
yeah, the things you cannot talk about right now, maybe.
I gotta write a note down.
Yeah.
Timestamp this for sure.
Yeah, all right. So, well, I'll say goodbye to our viewers as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Feel free to leave some comments down below. And if you have some questions for Rocco, I mean, I guess I could save them for next year's chat. So, hopefully you've enjoyed yourself. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.